Let's take a peek into Mr. Karcher's class to see what they're working on today.
Class, this month is a special holiday in which we honor brave men and women. Do you know which holiday I am talking about?
Are you talking about Thanksgiving? They were brave when they traveled to a new country.
That is true that the Pilgrims were brave. The group of people that I am talking about traveled to other countries like the Pilgrims. This group helps us by keeping our country safe.
Are you talking about policemen? They keep us safe.
Yes, policemen are brave and they keep our city safe. This group, however, keeps our country safe.
Are you talking about soldiers and sailors that are brave and keeping our country safe?
Yes, I am talking about men and women who are currently or in the past were a soldier or a sailor. This group of people are called veterans.
Oh, you're talking about Veterans Day? My grandpa fought in a war. He's a veteran.
Yes, anyone that has served in the armed forces is a veteran. Do you know how many branches are in the United States military?
I think those are 4 branches. Those is the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines.
You forgot the Coast Guard. My aunt is in the Coast Guard.
That is correct. There are 5 branches. What are some of the ways that people honor veterans on Veterans Day?
My family always go to the Veterans Day parade. Parade is one way to honor soldiers and sailors.
Yes, that is one way. What is another way?
I go with my grandma and grandpa to the cemetery. We put flowers on my Uncle Rob's grave. He died in a war.
These are great ways we can honor veterans. Today, we are going to do something special too at IJHS. Various groups and students from the junior high have prepared the following special presentation to honor our veterans this Veterans Day.
Yay! That sounds great.
Good morning, students, faculty, and staff. This is Mrs. Lockard, and I wanted to welcome you to the 2020 Veterans Day program. Though our program may look different this year, its meaning stays the same. Veterans Day represents our opportunity to recognize and honor the roughly 25 million men and women who have served and continue to serve our country. It is the veteran, more than any other person in this country, who has protected the freedoms that we enjoy. Veterans are all around us, and we owe them our thanks and respect. It is in that spirit that we honor our nation's veterans and our local heroes, hopefully not just on November 11th, but consistently and consciously in our daily lives. I hope that you enjoy the program.
Veterans Day, formerly known as Armistice Day, was originally set as a U.S. legal holiday to honor the end of World War I, which officially took place on November 11, 1918. In legislation that passed on in 1938, November 11th was dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be hereafter celebrated known as Armistice Day. At the time, the holiday was only meant to celebrate veterans of World War I. In 1954, after having been through both World War II and the Korean War, the U.S. Congress, at the urging of Veterans Organization, changed the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserting the word veterans. On June 1, 1954, President Eisenhower signed a law that made November 11th a day to honor American veterans of all wars. In 1968, the Uniforms Holiday Bill moved Veterans Day to the fourth Monday of October in order to give government workers a 3-day weekend. Many states did not agree with this decision and continued to celebrate the holiday on its original date. The first Veterans Day under the new law was observed with much confusion on October 25, 1971. Finally, on September 20, 1975, President Gerald R. Ford signed a law which returned the annual observance of Veterans Day to its original date of November 11th, beginning in 1978. Since then, the Veterans Day holiday has always been observed on November 11th.
Have you ever walked by, driven by, or even stopped in Memorial Park? It's less than a mile from here and represents a place where we honor veterans here in Indiana County. Memorial Park was established in the 1920s for the purpose of honoring men and women who have fought for our country's freedom throughout the years. The park contains many veterans' graves and was even once used as a hideaway for the Underground Railroad. Most prominent at the park is the Doughboy statue. The idea of the doughboy dates back to World War I, when American soldiers used clay to keep the piping of their uniforms white. However, when it rained, the clay would turn into doughy blobs and then evolved into the doughboy. So American soldiers in World War I were known as doughboys, and statues in their likeness remain to honor World War I veterans. The doughboy statue in Memorial Park proposed by a local committee by Alex Stewart, father of Jimmy Stewart, and was then erected in 1925. It is made out of copper and zinc. The official name of the statue is Spirit of the American Soldier, so that it would honor veterans of all wars. Doughboy statues can be found all around the country. There are an estimated 80 of them still standing in 29 different states. 11 of them are in Pennsylvania. The man behind the doughboy statue was sculptor Ernest Moore Van Quincy. He was born in the state of Indiana, but he also lived and worked in Georgia. He dedicated his career making war memorials, including Civil War memorials, the Andersonville Prison Memorial, and the statue Comrades, which shows a World War I and World War II veterans shaking hands. Van Quincy Doughboy statue was not designed to show power, but rather he wanted the soldier to show spirit and determination to preserve freedom for the American and its citizens. So in your next trip past or through Memorial Park, be sure to remember our veterans, just as the doughboy looks down over the park.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of those officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I, the armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn, when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. It is, in a way, an odd thing to honor those who died in defense of our country, in defense of us, in wars far away. The imagination plays a trick. We see these soldiers in our mind as old and wise, but most of them were boys when they died, and they gave up two lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. When they died, they gave up their chance to be husbands and fathers and grandfathers. They gave up their chance to be revered old men. They gave up everything for our country, for us. And all we can do is remember. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. In memory of those who gave the last full measure of devotion, may our efforts to achieve lasting peace gain strength. Let us make a vow to our dead. Let us show them by our actions that we understand what they died for. Strengthened by their courage, heartened by their value, and born by their memory, let us continue to stand for the ideals for which they lived and died.
In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. We shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
Our veterans are arguably the bravest people in our country. They enlist in our military, knowing that they may lose their lives along the way. They run towards the gunshots, not away from them. They leave their families knowing they may never see them again. There are many reasons to be proud to be an American citizen, and that is because of our veterans. Some thoughts on the debt we owe for freedom. Those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Thomas Paine. Contemplate the mangled bodies of your countrymen, and then say, what should be the reward of such sacrifices? If ye love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom, go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsels or your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that you are a countryman. Samuel Adams. War is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and the degraded state of moral and patriotic feeling, which thinks that nothing is worth war, is much worse. The person who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature and has no chance of being free, unless made so and kept so by the exertions of better men than himself. John Stuart Mill. Sure, I wave the American flag. Do you know a better flag to wave? John Wayne.
Freedom's home, where eagles soar. Now we pray that each day brings us peace, brings us love. Through this hour, keep us strong. Be our guide through the storm. Rising as before, freedom's call will ring on. Home to all where freedom reigns. Home to all who share the dream. America, America, God bless this land we love.
The Gettysburg Address is a speech that U.S. President Abraham Lincoln delivered during the American Civil War at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, on the afternoon of November 19, 1863. 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they fought here, thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
You've probably passed it countless times, and maybe you've even stopped to check it out. Just beside the Indiana Courthouse sits the Indiana County War Memorial. The Indiana County War Memorial is a monument that honors citizens of Indiana who died in war during the colonial period to the present. The bronze flags on the wall represent the scenes of combat, including George Washington riding into battle during the Revolutionary War to the soldiers carrying wounded in Vietnam. There are also memorial bricks that honor county residents who have served in the military. The memorial wall was built in 1923 and was completed in 1930. The original wall spanned 100 feet. The current wall memorial was dedicated on July 4th, 2001. An inscription on the memorial explains the meaning behind it. America owes no greater debt than to its servicemen and women, its veterans, and most notably those who unselfishly gave their life in defense of this great country. This wall was dedicated to the families and loved ones of those who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom and way of life. Dominic P. Rocco Jr., Brigadier General, U.S. Army retired. So the next time you walk past the courthouse, stop for a minute to honor the brave men and women from Indiana County who have helped to establish and preserve our freedom.